Welcome to Moments with Marianne. This is your host, Marianne Pastana. And we're here today with special guest, Cindy Brinker Simmons. And she's here to share with us her new book, Restored, Reconnecting Life's Broken Pieces. So are you in a fragile place due to pain, loss, or grief? Well, you're not meant to go through this alone. Cindy Brinker Simmons is an author, businesswoman, and philanthropist who cares deeply about helping people in the middle of life's challenges. Cindy's victory in overcoming the sorrow of multiple personal losses provides comfort and hope to those struggling through life's most difficult trials. For years, she has walked alongside hurting people to encourage and help them confidently press forward, choose joy, and trust God no matter the circumstances. So let's welcome to the show, Cindy Brinker Simmons.
Oh, greetings and many thanks, Marianne. I'm so excited to be with you and your listeners. Thank you so much.
Just want to congratulate you on having that number one new release on your book. What a triumph that is for your book.
Thank you.
It's such an accomplishment.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Thank you.
So let's talk about Restored. What is Restored?
The way this happened, it really started when I was 12 years old, Marianne. I was sitting on a very uncomfortable church pew next to my 10-year-old sister. I was 12 at the time, and my 38-year-old dad, and we were grieving because we had just buried my very beautiful and talented mom. And I was just so angry and so confused and so heartbroken. And I really thought, Marianne, that God hated me. I thought that I had done something so bad, so terrible, so heinous that I was incurring the wrath of an angry God, and he was punishing me for my mom's passing. That's where I parked my 12-year-old heart. And to add to just the sadness and the sorrow of our family, not only was my mom known as mom to me, but she was known to her adoring public in the 1950s as the tennis champion Maureen Little Mo Conley. She was number one in the world in tennis in 1952, 53, 54. She won Wimbledon 3 times in a row, 52, 53, and 54, and was the first woman and still the only American woman to date to win the calendar Grand Slam, which is the Australian, French, Wimbledon, and US Open in one calendar year. And the majors are called Grand Slams. And she played in her career that was only 3 years because she had a horseback riding accident that abruptly halted her career in 1954. She won all 9 of the Grand Slam tournaments that she played, only losing a set. That would be like any football team winning the Super Bowl in every year that they played. I mean, she didn't lose a match her last year of competitive play. But Marianne, there was one opponent she couldn't beat, and that was ovarian cancer. And it just literally took our family's breath away. It was like a vacuum cleaner had just come down from the heavenlies and just sucked out all the joy and the sparkle in our life. I mean, my dad was extraordinary, and my sister and I had an amazing relationship with him. But many times it's the mom who's kind of the nucleus around which your family gravitates. And that was our case, because she planned everything and our life was just so exciting and fun. But, life does beckon you forward. And so I graduated from high school, graduated from college. I came back to Dallas, and I started a robust career in public relations like yourself, my dear. And then I met this wonderful man. His name was Bob Simmons. He was my soulmate, the love of my life. And we were having a great time. We had just had a son and we're about to adopt a little girl. And then, bam, life struck again with 4 terrifying words: Bob, you have cancer. And then 3 years later, I lost my husband. And with my 9-year-old son, we buried my sweet husband. But Marianne, this time it was different. This time, I knew this God. This time I knew that God wasn't angry at me, but instead he loved me with just this unwavering love and consistent goodness. And even though this time I still had the grief of the loss and a hole in my heart that had expanded after that little hole had started with the death of my mom, now to the death of my husband. I could choose joy. And why? Because when I was 16, I'd met a daughter of a pastor, and she had told me about I couldn't earn God's love. There was nothing I could do to earn God's love. But yet he loved me with this overriding love, and that by faith, through a relationship with his son, Jesus Christ, I would have eternal salvation and just peace and tranquility. And that I would know that God had my interest, that he loved me as much as when my mom breathed her last breath, as when I was born. And so I accepted Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior. And that changed everything. So when I was 12, I wanted to write a book because I just wanted to do something. It wasn't necessarily a book, but I wanted to do something, Marianne, that would someday, somehow, I could just speak out against the scourge of a disease called cancer. And it just so happened that the timing was right. And this book is 7.5 years in the making, but that I wrote Restored. And what I wanted to do was to give practical tools and spiritual truths to help people move forward in their grief and their sadness and their loss, so that they could be healed and then have victory in their life. So that's why the book started with that desire. It's taken me a few years to write it. And each chapter has summary points that summarize each of the 7 chapters, and then applications to give real life solutions to help find hope and purpose and healing and joy as people move forward and perseverance. So that's how this all started.
I understand that all proceeds from book sales are actually being donated.
Yes, yes. When I came back from college, I started just out of my grief, and I had really planned to do this just to start for a couple of years. I was working in an equestrian center, and for the members, I just wanted to do something that would benefit at that time the American Cancer Society. So we had very organic events like a horse show and a bake sale and a dance marathon, and also this country club had tennis courts. So we had pledges per game played, and a swimming marathon that the members would get pledges per lap swum. And my goal was to raise $2,000. We raised $6,000, and the members loved it so much we did it another year. And that year we raised $16,000. And another year we raised $22,000. And Marianne, a movement started. And now 44 years later, Wipe Out Kids Cancer is still going, because 1 out of 2 men and 1 out of 3 women in their lifetime will be diagnosed with cancer. And Marianne, 1 out of 300 boys, male boys, and males, and 1 out of 330 females will be diagnosed with cancer before their 20th birthday. So we give our money to pediatric cancer. We raise millions and millions of dollars, and have over the last 44 years, with very innovative pediatric cancer research. But we also have programs that help give comfort and joy to families who are going through cancer. And we do many, many things for them, different events, and that just encourage them and allow them to come together and speak with others who are going through the same issue. And also so half the proceeds go to Wipe Out Kids Cancer, and the other half, Marianne, goes to the Maureen Conley Brinker Tennis Foundation. My mom was Maureen Conley. She was known as Little Mo in her day. And we have a very large tennis foundation. It's actually one of the largest of its kind private tennis foundations that furthers junior tennis. And I happen to be president of it. We put on tournaments, Little Mo tournaments. So the other half is going to that nonprofit. They're 2 charities that I love. And it was just my giving my first fruits to God in writing this book, and then giving all the donations to these 2 important charities.
What just a great thing to be a part of. Purchase a book, be empowered, and also you're helping these charities as well. So, how do people get to a place of restoration by drawing on their faith?
Yes, well, I think faith is very, very important. And there are many principles that I so believe are important. And one of them is that suffering is a universal experience. I mean, we don't come looking for trouble, Marianne, but it sure comes looking for us. And joy, how do you choose joy? That is such a great question. I really deal with that in my book. Is that joy is an intentional choice, not predicated on your circumstances, but on your relationship with God. And it's all about trusting God and focusing on what God has done for you in the past and his consistent goodness into the future. In other words, you only have to look at your own history, I believe, to see how God has rescued you, protected you, carried you, and even literally saved you from peril. And it's so important to not to forget to remember how he has either physically, spiritually, or emotionally pulled you from what could have been or was your wreckage. Because pain is mandatory and suffering is optional, depending on how you respond. And so, knowing that God has your best interest, that he carries you, that he has in the past rescued you, restored you, redeemed you, that same God is going to do that into the future. And you want to be a victor, not a victim in your hardship. One of the things that I think is really important in turning your grief into action. I really I've seen this in my life since really suffering is my ministry and really how I like to help heal hurting people is that what I've seen is that grief is not a new emotion, nor is activism a new phenomenon. But when you blend the two, then real healing begins to take place. So it's really important, I believe, to put your grief into action. Now, it's important to spend time and pause when there's a loss or a hardship or a sadness. You need to pause and deal with that. But life does beckon you forward, and you can't stay in neutral forever. So then, what I've encouraged, because I've worked with a lot of moms who've lost children to cancer over the years. And what's important is to then be other focused and not self focused. In other words, to volunteer perhaps at your favorite charity or look at an organization that really does speak to your passions and what means something to you. And then share your feelings with people who have had the same experiences or who are compassionate listeners. It's important to have people around you. We cannot do life alone. We cannot be isolated. We cannot be in alone. We cannot be by ourselves. It will not go well for us. As a matter of fact, in 2023, our US Surgeon General announced that loneliness and isolation posed a public health threat. And he said, this is amazing. He said, through all of his research in an 81-page document, that loneliness created health risks as deadly as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. So loneliness has huge mental and physical health consequences, anxiety and depression and heart disease and stroke, and of course, fear and stress. So, in one of my chapters, I talk about community, how important it is to have people around you that can speak healing and speak compassion and speak encouragement into your lives and undergird you with prayer and be there to carry you when life is hard, because life is really hard. And then just, Marianne, savor the memories of your loved one, of the times with them. It's so important to remember, to not forget to remember also those wonderful times with your loved ones. And again, just understand and chronicle how God has helped you through those times and just to be reminded that he will do so again. Those are just a few. I have, after every chapter, I have applications again that are practical applications because I didn't just want to state the problem, but I wanted to give at the end of every chapter summary points like suffering is a universal experience, like many times you can't control your responses, but you can control your many times you can't control your circumstances, but you can control your responses to your circumstances, or like trials can be treasures in disguise. And God is glorious even when your circumstances are not. So so summaries and then applications to help the readers move forward in victory.
Well, on that note, we're going to pause here for a quick break. We've been speaking with Cindy Brinker Simmons in regards to her new book, Restored: Reconnecting Life's Broken Pieces. You've been listening to Moments with Mary Ann. We'll be right back after these messages from our sponsors.
Are you a coffee lover who wants to make a difference? Look no further than Fire Department Coffee, a veteran-owned business that gives back to support first responders in need. Each batch of coffee is freshly roasted right here in the USA by a dedicated team of first responders and coffee experts. So when you enjoy a cup of Fire Department coffee, you're not only drinking high-quality coffee, you're supporting members of your community. Start your day with a coffee that gives back. Visit firedepartmentcoffee.com. That's fire, D-E-P-T, coffee.com.
Hey, pay attention, everybody. Amy Vaughn and myself, Dutch Mendenhall, are hosting an event. Have you ever felt like the wealthiest in America play by a different rule book? Even if you earn well, make money, invest wisely, educate yourself, there is an invisible barrier. It separates you from the financial security enjoyed by America's elite. The economic landscape changes every day. The wealthy elite know how to stay ahead of it because we play by a different rule book. At Invest Well Summit, we'll share all the plays, and we're making it to win. Spots are going to sell out fast at Invest Well Summit, so get your butt to investwellsummit.com and secure your seat now.
There comes a moment when you realize you're somewhere special, when you discover that each beautiful creature that you see has been rescued from a life of absolute horror and brought to this incredibly free place. Here's where their lives were forever changed and where yours will as well. Discover over 500 tigers, bears, and lions at the brand new visitor center at the Wild Animal Sanctuary just outside Denver. For more information, visit wildanimalsanctuary.org. Discover true freedom at the Wild Animal Sanctuary.
Internationally recognized and award-winning author Judy Goodman works and teaches outside the box of limited thinking. Working with people from every walk of life, her goal is to empower you to be the best you can be, no matter what the challenge is. Born with the gift of seeing beyond our normal vision, she has an extraordinary gift of working with every challenge. Teaching beyond conventional wisdom, her work is described as life-changing. Visit judygoodman.com. That's judygoodman.com.
I'd like to thank Jason Eastwood at Guitarfulness for sharing his inspiring music and talent with us. His music is known worldwide for cultivating atmospheres of harmony, inner peace, and clarity. Visit Jason's website at guitarfulness.com. Join his newsletter, be part of his community, and download his music. Welcome back to Moments with Mary Ann. We're here today with special guest, Cindy Brinker Simmons, who's here sharing with us her new book, Restored: Reconnecting Life's Broken Pieces. In your book, you talk about how when we're in this place of struggle and heartbreak, that there's also hope. And how do people find that hope when they're in that place?
Oh, yes, yes. Well, it is important to know that you can't tether yourself to your circumstances because circumstances are fleeting. And the same thing as happiness is just a very temporary emotion. But hope comes from literally putting one step forward, moving. Moving forward just requires us to show up, to take that first step, and to stay in the game. And literally, sometimes we just have to do things scared, Marianne. Sometimes we just have to, even though things can be frightening, knowing that God is with you and He carries you, you just move forward and do it scared. Trust always in God and His ways and His timing. And also focus on today, not on the past, because the past is the past, and not on the future. You know, some people spend their time indefinitely preparing for the future and they never live for today. So focus on today. And also watch how other people have handled their hardships with victory. There are people around you that just seem to have the peace and the serenity and just the quietness, even though their lives are rocked. I mean, rocked with hardship. So look at those people, talk with them and how they do it. Or if you don't have people like that in your life, read about heroes that have overcome hardships. And also celebrate your achievements each day rather than just being disheartened of what has not been done. Chronicle, especially if you're just beginning to move forward. Write down one thing you want to do every day, one thing, and get that done and celebrate it. And then the next day, add something else. Write that down and celebrate it so that you're beginning to chronicle and make an activity list and check off at least one activity completed on that list and celebrate. Celebrate your daily accomplishments. And little by little, you'll be getting into the game, staying in the game, and moving forward. And that is what creates hope that you can do it. And again, pray, ask God to give you the strength, to give you the power, to give you the ability to move forward, and chronicle, journal how you're seeing God at work, how the gratitude that you are having to Him, and also again, getting with and meeting with people who can really support you. Again, community, having a community that undergirds you during really hard times. I have a community group I meet with once a week. There are 4 of us. We were called Seeker Sisters. There's not one thing they don't know about me. And when we meet at my home every week, when those Seeker Sisters, the 3, walk through the door, if they are sad, if they are disheartened, if they have hardships, I can guarantee you they walk out of that door an hour and a half to 2 hours later, lifted up, because we have encouraged one another and encouraged me as well. So having a support group, Marianne, is so important to being able to move forward in hope.
What if one of life's broken pieces is a person's connection with God? How do they restore that?
Yes, that was me. I literally thought God hated me. And I even literally shook my fist at him because I wasn't too crazy about him either. I would encourage people like that. And I totally get it. And you know what? God gets it. God understands our heart, He understands our brokenness. He can take anything you have, just throw it at Him, because what He wants, Marianne, is He just wants communication. He wants to have a two-way communication. When my son was growing up, he was 9 when Bob went to heaven. And I encouraged him to have really tough conversations with God. I mean, be angry, be honest, be tearful, throw everything at God, because God just wants that two-way conversation. And William did. He was honest with God and authentic with God. And little by little, through our involvement with our church, with our involvement, he went to a faith-based school. Little by little, he realized that God is who He said He is. And William's faith now is so rock solid. So for those who are starting out, I would recommend them to find a church or synagogue or a place of worship for them to go and talk to the pastor there or the rabbi or whomever is important to them. Of course, as a Christian, going to a faith-based church was really important to me, but to begin to talk to people of faith in churches or in places of worship, and then talk to friends who they have seen have endured hardship and ask them, how did they endure hardship? And especially people of faith that they know are people of faith. And how did their faith reconcile them to perhaps what they think is an angry God? But absolutely, when you pursue God, He's actually pursuing you. And there will be a moment that there will be a reconciliation to you and your Creator.
One of the most empowering pieces in your book, I felt, was that you have a roadmap for people to follow so that
Mhm.
they can experience God and they know that there's a plan and a purpose for them.
Yes, absolutely. And thank you for sharing that. One of my, I think, the most perhaps impacting chapters is restoring purpose. I have 7 chapters: restoring momentum, restoring perseverance, restoring joy, restoring relationships. That's all about forgiveness, restoring community, again, getting involved in community, restoring compassion. How do you respond to your friends when they are hurting? And then restoring purpose. And truly, we are God's workmanship. He says that in the Bible, that we are precious to him, and that God has mighty plans for us. We're all broken people, Marianne. Every single one of your listeners right now is a broken person, and probably has enough material that if I asked them, okay, fill in this sentence. God, why couldn't you have? Meaning, why couldn't you have healed? Or why couldn't you have done this? Or why couldn't you have done that? There would be multiple reasons or words that they would say, God, why couldn't you have? So we're all broken people that are just hurting. But yet, God has mighty purposes for all of us. And even if our life is broken and a little messy, a little flawed and blemished, which they all are, it is never too late to be used by God. And I talk about in the book, sharing your wounds, be authentic with others. That's why I share with people in this book, which was kind of scary. I'm very transparent about my own insecurities, my own doubts, because we all are that way. No one is without some, even if it's a hidden sin, is without something that's hidden, something that hurts them, something that's broken their heart. And so it's never too late to be used by God, and do not let your past to define you or who you will become. And literally, God uses people to get his work done and his instruments of change. I mean, we're his plan A. God doesn't have a plan B. Jesus came to save us, and he uses people, Marianne, to get his work done. So the best, and it's very important to know that the best you can do is enough, but God is even more. He is everything. So it's just important for people to know that even if their lives have seen perhaps a little bit of brokenness and hardship, or maybe there's some things they're not proud of, it's okay. God can use that and can speak mightily into other people with those testimonies. So I just would say everybody, and I know this to be true, that God uses people.
I know in your book you talk about how our life matters to others. And I know when we're going through difficult times, sometimes it feels like we're kind of alone and it doesn't. So, how does our life matter? And how does supporting other people help their success and help us too?
Yes. Well, people matter because God created us to be relational. Absolutely. We were made to be relational and to be in community and to be in relationships with others. And that's why it's really important to ask for forgiveness, to reconcile relationships, and to be united, because God is a God of harmony and of unity. So he wants us all to be in relationship one to another. And so, because of that, we need to be honest and authentic with people, but truly, we do need to ask for forgiveness, or we need to receive other people's forgiveness, and we need to forgive ourselves, Marianne. That's really important. There are so many people who can ask for forgiveness, or they can receive people's forgiveness, but they cannot forgive themselves. And forgiveness is the bottom line of the gospel. It is the nucleus around which the gospel gravitates, because Jesus' sacrifice on an agonizing cross is all about the forgiveness of sins. So it's important that we are whole people, forgiving ourselves, and then again, sharing our wounds and speaking with other people, encouraging other people, exhorting other people, because the Bible says how important it is that encouraging words lift up your bones, that the encouraging words refresh the spirit. And that's why this book is so full of helping infuse hope and encouragement and joy into the lives of others.
What is something that you want our readers and listeners to take away from your book?
I would say the most important thing, there's so many things, but that God delivers. God delivers. And my son once gave, and I start the chapter on joy, it gave me a beautiful definition of joy. And joy is the cheerful confidence that God has the power to deliver. And no matter what happens in our lives, that we know beyond a shadow of a doubt that God has our best interest. And because of that, Marianne, it takes away the angst, the worry, the concern when we know that God is in control. That then we know we have a partner. And even in this book, of course, I'm giving the money away to charity, but I'm not at all concerned about the outcomes. I have given God my first fruits. I've done everything I could to write this book to the best of my abilities, and I've handed it over to God's throne of grace. And now I've said, God, I'm giving this to you. So now I'm turning everything over to you. I have two little signs in my bedroom and in my office that says, "Good morning. This is God speaking. Today I will handle all of your troubles." And that is what he does. So I would say that when you put your faith in God, now we have to be responsible, we have to be proactive, that it relieves you of the stress of trying to crazily create your own outcome. And so there's peace, there's tranquility when you rest your faith in God. And that's really important. And then just know that he is going to provide the responses. And even if, Marianne, it's not when you want it, God's timing is always perfect. I say in my book, there's 4 answers to prayer. The first is no, not yet. Oh, Cindy, no, not yet. You are not ready. You're not prepared. You're not equipped to handle all that I'm going to give you. Be patient. No, not yet. No, I love you too much. Oh, Cindy, what you're praying for and asking me for, that is so much less than what I have for you, dear child. No, I love you too much. I'm not going to answer that prayer. Wait till you see what I have for you. The third is, yes, I thought you'd never ask. And again, that gets back to God beckoning us to be in a relationship with him, to communicate with him, even if you've got to throw the kitchen sink at him in anger and frustration, he can take it. And then the fourth is, and here's the victory, yes, and here's more. That's when God reveals the richness of his blessing. So no, I love you too much. No, not yet. Yes, I thought you'd never ask. And then yes, and here's more. So sometimes, Marianne, we have to be patient. And it can be days, it can be months, or even perhaps years. I mean, I was so frustrated that I couldn't get this book done 7.5 years ago. I just was like, God, what is creating this delay? But Marianne, I didn't know that a pandemic was looming. Didn't know that. And now Restored has even so much more impact because today you might not have lost a spouse, or you might not have a prodigal child, or you might not have lost your best dog or cat, or it might not be something that is so life-changing as a loss like that. It can be just that you're disappointed at where you are in life, that life is not where you thought it would be after all these years, or maybe there's just a pall, because there's a pall right now when we look at man's inhumanity to man on the news, or we look at conflict, we look at hatred, or we look at racism, all these things that just speak such darkness to our hearts. So God delayed this book and me writing it. So now it's published, and I think it can have so much more of an impact. So truly, we just wait on God's timing.
I couldn't agree with you more. I think that's why your book is resonating so widely with audiences. That's not something we can plan.
No, it isn't. And it's hard to wait. Patience, Marianne, is not my virtue. It is not.
It's not mine either, so I get it.
Well, and the other thing I wanted to say is it's important to have a dream. And I deal with that in my chapter on momentum. And we all have dreams. Marianne, you've had an amazing dream, and you have fulfilled it, but you got to have a dream, and execution is so part of it. And so many people, Marianne, have dreams, but for many reasons, maybe they lose confidence, or maybe there are naysayers. There are obstacles in their way. But we have to forgo those obstacles. And if it's a dream that's on your heart, like you and your dream and business and you in your tenacity, you pursued it. And I'm sure there were a lot of obstacles in your way. I know that for me. But we need to have a dream. It could be big, it can be not huge. It doesn't even have to be life impactful for others. But that is something that having a dream and pursuing it is also what helps us move forward with one foot in front of the other.
Oh my goodness, Cindy, you are such an inspiration. I feel so blessed that we've been able to spend this time together. Where can our listeners connect with you and be part of your community and learn more about your work?
Oh, thank you, Marianne. Yes, right now, the best way is the website for Restored. It's brinkersimmons.com, brinkersimmons.com. And my email is restored@brinkersimmons.com. It has a place to contact me there. And also, your listeners can just email me at restored@brinkersimmons.com. I'd love to hear from them.
Well, Cindy, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show with us here today.
It has been my greatest pleasure, Marianne. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Cindy. It has been such an honor to spend this time with you and to talk about your new book, Restored, Reconnecting Life's Broken Pieces. Restored's available at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and everywhere books are sold. And remember, support our indie bookstores. Well, we're at the end of our time today. I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in. You've been listening to Moments with Marianne, where we make every moment count.
In a single moment, your life can change. Moments with Marianne is a transformative hour that covers an endless array of topics with the best of the best. Her guests are leaders in their fields, ranging from inspirational authors, top industry leaders, and business and spiritual entrepreneurs. Each guest is gifted and a true visionary, a recognized leader in her own work, and while teaching others to develop, refocus, and grow, Marianne will bring the best guest and sometimes a special surprise. Don't miss this. You never know just which moment will change your life forever. Make sure to tune in and visit momentswithmarianne.com for more information.